Welcome to SugarRush, our first live chat. My name is Ryan, Product Specialist at Provident CRM. And today we have Gary Cullen and John Downs joining us for an open-ended discussion about AI in sales, specifically with the manufacturing, wholesale, and the distribution sectors. So would you give us a quick short intro on yourselves, guys, if that's all right?
Yeah, great. I'll go first then. I'm Gary Cullen. I'm one of the co-founders and the sales director here at Provident CRM. Been working with Sugar since 2006, but formally as a partner since 2008. We've worked with a number of different CRMs and in different verticals. So just have some interesting things to have a chat about today, I think, and definitely looking forward to getting John's view on a few of those topics. I guess we'll hand over to you, John.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for bringing me on today, guys. My name's John. I'm an account executive over at SalesEye. We recently became part of the SugarCRM family in April this year, and I've had the luxury of working in the manufacturing and distribution space now for just over 12 years. And yeah, looking forward to kind of talking through some of these topics and seeing if we can share some pearls of wisdom. Hopefully, Gary. Nothing promised.
Yeah. We'll see how we get on.
So I'll run through any questions at the end of the chat if we see any pop up in the messages. So we'll go through them at the end of the session. So to kick off, whoever wants to take the floor to start, based on your experience, how do you overcome the hesitation many companies feel when adopting AI and CRM technology together? And what inspired you to tackle these concerns, and how do you handle them based on your experience?
Yeah, John, do you want to go first?
That's a strong opener. So I think there are a lot of instances what organizations need to appreciate is that it's not about to take over the world. It's not about to take their jobs. It's about, look, how can we apply a new set of technologies to our business that will enable us to reach the outcomes that we need. I think that in a lot of instances, people kind of are expecting it to do more than it should be, or maybe not in a position, as a business that they can start to apply that technology. So it's sometimes it's at the early stages, it's really starting to be clearer as to what the objective is or what the business is looking to drive as an outcome by deploying that technology in the first place. In a lot of instances, things like generative AI, things like machine learning should really be used as a way of being able to simplify the naturally complex. Businesses have sort of kind of gone through a bit of a transition of late where they've gone from almost a position of data poverty to a position of data overload. And there are a lot of tangible results that we can see through applying these technologies as a way of being able to simplify or to reduce the noise. I don't know if you've kind of come across that at all, Gary, in terms of that simplification piece.
I was going to say you've just said all the things I was going to say. I think definitely over the last, like machine learning and what we now all the different elements that we now group under the AI umbrella has really kind of come to the fore in the last 18 months with ChatGPT and a number of the free tools that are available now and the advances that have happened. And it has been quite jarring, but the technology isn't really new, right? It's been around for a while. It just has never really been exposed. And the generative AI layer that was added on top has really taken it to a new level. So we've always kind of had this struggle of huge volumes of data being collected in CRM applications. And I think up to a number of years, was just around trying to create structure on that data that was in an organization and try to bring it in to one place so that we could all interact in the same conversations and know what was happening and where we were going. But like you mentioned, it really has taken a big step forward in how much data is now being collected and what are we doing with this data. So by adding in machine learning and AI, especially generative AI, it's really allowing the system to decide what, based on trends and data, what it believes are important things that should be focused on. And it's starting to just surface them up. So, like we've all been like definitely, in sales a long time, and we've all seen that there's always those 5 accounts that keep you the busiest, or there's 3 or 4 deals that you're focused on. and it's hard to see around the edges of those, just because the people who shout the loudest tend to get your most attention. So having the ability for the system to be able to provide you with those insights and be able to say, look, there is something happening over here on the side, or this deal you're really focused on isn't probably the most important. So that when it comes to having the two combined, it's really taken the initial problem of we need to deploy a CRM to get operational efficiency and to drive better outcomes for customers. The AI layer that has now been introduced just allows us to take a huge step forward. And now that we have all of this data, what are we going to do with it? And saying we're going to build a BI report or we're going to surface something, it's often too late. It's often at the end of the month or end of the quarter. You're not really reacting in real time, whereas having a system that is watching what's happening all the time and putting its hand up and saying, I think you need to take a look at this, just allows the individual using the system to not have to be too worried about keeping all the edges pinned down. They just need to focus on what's in front of them, and the system will bring that to their attention. So I think that's kind of, I don't know, from our perspective or what we're seeing, that's the most important or the most valuable insight at the moment is just putting manners on the scale of data that we have. And that's just purely from the sales perspective. That's before we even get into all of the other data that's hiding in the ERP. I don't know, John, do you have anything else that
I agree. I think in a lot of situations, if we were to look at a kind of a sales team specifically, they've probably got more access to different forms of data than they've ever had. And sometimes, like you said, it can just be using some of that technology to help them prioritize or to understand things that they're missing or potential gaps, because sometimes they can get highly focused on very narrow objectives and they can miss some peripheral things. And sometimes it's just, like you said, something almost flagging up to you and saying, hey, this is something that you've left, or something that needs a little bit of your attention. Because salespeople are normally pretty good, right? If you give them the data that they need, they can then run with it. But sometimes they just don't have the capacity or the understanding to go and get that themselves. It's not necessarily their skill set, but we've got to make sure that we're not throwing too much information at them or expecting too much, because that's the point at which that communication starts to break down. So yeah, I would say it's really about a simplification piece.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Brilliant. And I have a follow-up question, please. So you spoke earlier about AI and machine learning in CRM. Could you explain some of the key challenges CRM systems may face when incorporating machine learning into the CRM system, or something you've seen so far with that?
Yeah, do you want to take that, or do you want me to start off with that, Gary? It's up to you.
Well, I'll start with a low, and I'll hit the ball over to you then really quickly. But I think the challenge with any of these systems is the quality of data within them. So if you're only looking at one small set of data, the system can't learn, right? So you've got to have a much wider piece of data for it to be able to act on. And then the challenge then, if you're in full-blown AI, is the ability for the system to hallucinate or to come up with the wrong, the wrong weighting on the decisions that it's making. So having a mature model that the data is being put into is obviously something that you need in any mature system. Like starting from scratch and hoping the machine catches up at some point is not ideal if it's suggesting the wrong things, and then people are actioning those wrong things. So we tend to then put aside our own intuition or our own knowledge, and we start to blindly follow what the early prompts are saying. But I think with all of these types of systems, it generally enhances the decision-making process or adds more value rather than supplanting it and taking over. So maybe if you're introducing one of these systems, is that, yes, take everything they're telling you into account, but don't let it lead until you're very confident the decisions that it's making are genuinely in the best interest of the opportunity or the relationship, I would think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, I think what one of the challenges is that, like when any new technology surfaces, people kind of often mislabel it as sort of like a magic bullet, so to speak, and they don't necessarily appreciate that it's not going to be equally valuable in all areas, and so they need to be a little bit stricter on exactly what they're actually looking for it to do. There tends to be quite a lot of, not necessarily hand holding, but ultimately every business that we speak to is unique in their own way. They'll have their own processes, their own way that they look after their customers, go to market, etc. And a lot of that tribal knowledge or that kind of business understanding needs to be somehow implemented or tailored into that model, because otherwise, like Gary said, it might start driving the wrong objectives, or it might start surfacing the wrong sort of insights. So I think that my recommendation would be, irrespective as to where and what you're looking to deploy, to take more of a crawl, walk, run analogy, where we're looking to piecemeal give it information to understand what the kind of quality of that response is, but also be kind of fairly strict as to what we're expecting out of it. We're not all of a sudden just going to add it in and all of a sudden things are going to disappear. It should be around, okay, well, we're looking to deploy in this area, we're expecting to see these outcomes, and then measuring against it, and just being agile or open enough to appreciate that you're not going to get it right first time. This is going to be iterative.
And it's also, I think, considering other areas of the business, right? Because we're talking about a CRM with AI built in and intelligence built in. So that tends to be the sales conversation or the account management or maybe the customer support, right? But outside of that, you have vast other areas, both in manufacturing and distribution, where you could have optimization of delivery routes or warehouse stock control, or being able to understand that based on current purchasing patterns, particular SKUs are going to be out of stock within X amount of time. You don't need a person in the warehouse walking up and down the aisle checking that. So based on purchasing patterns over the last 3 years, what are we likely to forecast? So it's, I guess our conversation is really around the sales piece, because that's what we're here to talk to today, and the account management piece. But there's obviously vast other areas that can all feed back into the CRM. So all of these other systems and all these other parts of the operation can be feeding back. So something as simple as a conversation around a particular purchase. So I need 50 units of X stock, that the system is knowledgeable about the warehouse and about the logistics and about the process of getting that stock to the customer, that enables the person who's engaging with the customer to say, yeah, we can have that with you within 8 hours, because the system has already forecasted based on what it knows about the operation and the rest of the business. And that's a commitment that can be made, with confidence in real time, just because we're just feeding that knowledge in, and it's able to consider it as part of that process. So there are lots of other areas, but I guess one of the bigger headaches and the first kind of foray into this area is generally around the CRM and the sales data and the purchasing patterns, and the connection between different stock items and the white space or the upsell and cross-sell opportunities that exist within organizations with massive volumes of stock. So that's, just wanted to kind of touch on that. It's not just the salesy stuff, but it is.
In fairness, I was going to kind of approach it from a very similar perspective, actually, which is that oftentimes we'll talk about kind of sales and marketing alignment, but of the conversations that I'll have with manufacturers, it's really more about production and sales alignment, and having a concrete and an accurate forecast, having an understanding as to what we're expecting from not only our existing business but where we think new business is coming from. I think that there is a huge opportunity to kind of help bring those two departments together, because irrespective as to potential white space, I know that you just mentioned there, is around kind of cross-link up, switch selling customers. It could be as simple as just having better transparency across the business as to how those sort of processes are impacting other people in the organization. It's all great if if we can sell the product, but if we can't deliver it, we're not delivering a great customer experience, and sometimes that's more dislocated than we'd like it to be.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
brilliant.
definitely. It's hard. It's especially large scale manufacturing, or it's hard. There's a lot of products moving around, and it's very easy for a salesperson or for an account exec to walk in the door and say, I can do, we can do that, and then have to make 400 phone calls in the car going, how do we deliver on what I've just said? Whereas actually being able to just look at your phone and say, I can do that, I can press a button now and this will happen with confidence, just adds massively to that relationship that you can have with customers.
Great. Just mindful of the time, just under 10 minutes left. But I believe it'd be great for our viewers to know how we're leveraging the technologies you've discussed in this call today to drive better outcomes for the future of them companies wanting to take this on board.
It's fine. I can pick up that one. I think that one of the quickest wins that we've noticed from deploying this within our customers, and all of my customers are in wholesale manufacturing and distribution, is really better understanding the customers that they're already serving. I don't know what the statistic is, but it's something like 7 or 8 times easier to sell more into an existing customer than it is to find a new customer and bring them up to the same level. And in a lot of situations, is that kind of white space or that kind of account planning or that customer planning, if you could call it that, tends to be quite ad hoc or quite structured, in that they take a monthly, quarterly, annual sort of approach to it. But in our experience, customers aren't particularly loyal. And if they are loyal, they're not necessarily loyal for long. And understanding that a customer is down trading or up trading in certain products, and being able to bring that to the conversation rather than you reacting to that behavior, again, just changes that relationship. It not only makes the organization that you're speaking to feel that you value that your business, but also the sales team are really going in there with value. It's not about, just talking about the weather or the football. Yeah, they're going to need to do that bonding and rapport step. But when it gets down to the nuts and bolts, it's like, okay, how can we better drive revenue for you? Because the more that you're successful, the more that we're going to be successful. And a lot of cases, I think that unfortunately, there's still a lot of that cross-link up customer understanding that only exists in certain people's heads. So if we are looking to scale an organization or bring new people in, how can we get that knowledge in them as quickly as possible? How can we onboard them so that we can really start to see that manifest? But I don't know if you've seen that, Gary.
Yeah, we've had those same conversations, and we've like, that's, I guess, the process of deploying a new system is to drive those types of efficiencies. And while you were talking, I actually had a different train of thought. I was kind of thinking about when these systems get implemented, we actually take a huge amount of data from the ERP, right? Because obviously we go in and we have conversations with customers, but then those customers buy from us, right? And what typically happens in the CRM is that the sales process is closed and we all pat ourselves in the back, but then sales move on to the next conversation. And we don't actually then get to see what is drawn down and what the contract fulfillment looks like. And we might get a BI report once a quarter, or, just a health of a customer report. So by being able to take all of the transactional data from the ERP system, bring it in, put it through an AI process and a load of machine learning algorithms that then presents all of that data into the CRM. So we like, today we could just connect to an ERP, hoover all the data in, and now we just have all that data in the CRM. So that's not really done anything other than just create a huge amount of noise in the CRM. But actually having insights and learnings and decisions being made about what's happening in real time with the data being presented to the users in the CRM. So I get told things like, a customer has purchased a certain volume every month against a contract, and that volume has started to decline in real time, or is improving in real time, or they've actually stopped purchasing one particular product out of the suite that we're selling in. So maybe a competitor has gotten into that retailer or gotten into that customer and started to influence some buying decisions. And being able to know that a customer that buys product A typically buys B and C. Now, seasoned members of the sales team will probably know this intuitively, but you're introducing new products all the time, and the relationships between those products and the cross-sell opportunities might take time to emerge in just the general knowledge of the team members, whereas this data is just coming all the time out of the ERP, just showing you what's happening. When we get all that data in and we're having sales conversations with the customer, what we're doing today is we're actually summarizing those opportunity conversations. We're giving the salesperson an overview of where the opportunity is going. Like we've got generative AI built in. So the same with support tickets, we're summarizing, suggesting solutions. So we're trying to get as much of that information in front of the person as quickly as we can in the most real-time and efficient manner, so that they can make decisions. Is this customer at risk of churn? Is there an upsell opportunity that we might have missed? Is there a better margin on a different product line that we could present to the customer that actually drives a better outcome for both of us? We get the better margin, but they have a superior product potentially in front of their customers. So there's an awful lot that we're doing, with the tools that we have, and there's a huge roadmap of what next. Like every time we turn our laptops on, we're being told of the next AI engine that's just been landed on top of us, and what it's going to do for us. But there's a huge amount of innovation already in the tools that we're working with on what we can do, which is sometimes a bit frightening. When you see the amount of intelligence that's actually coming up on the screen when you log in. The ability to drill into data, to analyze. Like I think, John, you've got that great tool where you can say, okay, if customer A has stopped buying product A, is it a customer problem or is it a product problem? Yeah. And you can then widen the view, and a salesperson can do that.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think that kind of jumping on the back of that topic is that a lot of the customers that we've seen deploying this are also using the way that they sell to their other customers to kind of build out more of a holistic view. So almost the ability to benchmark, sharing things like product trends that are doing well in certain areas versus others. And I suppose almost becoming that elusive consultant sort of experience where the salesperson is actually bringing something to the table as to, well, we've noticed that this product is doing well in this area because of these reasons, and then being able to spell out those reasons as to kind of how that actually helps that end customer too, is really important. Because if we're historically just looking backwards and we're not using it as a way to create a path forwards, then we're limiting what we're going to be able to do. But yeah, I think it's about understanding where the opportunity is and then offering those people an opportunity to weigh that up. Obviously, they're still going to need to sanity check it. That machine's never going to be perfect, but it can do a lot of the heavy lifting, a lot of that prep work, a lot of that manual labor that you'd have maybe managed in another way, and could allow you to have more conversations or just be more confident with the time that you have available.
Great. Just a couple of minutes left. I just wanted to double check if we have any questions in the Q&A. These are more questions revolved around companies looking to get into the ERP and CRM systems. So would you say what are the low risk steps companies can take to begin modernizing their ERP systems and integrating AI without the need for a massive overhaul? So when the first starting it out, what are the low risk steps you think companies might face?
That's a good question. I don't know if you want to, Gary. I'm more than happy to jump in. I think
ERP is your end, so maybe
no pressure. No pressure. I think that one of the easiest things that we can do is start to appreciate that the way that a customer transacts with us has an overall impact as to how that customer behaves. It's all well and good. You might be having the best conversation with the customer and you might think your relationship's extremely strong. But if the data is telling us otherwise as to kind of how they buy our products and their purchasing behavior, then it's really in a lot of cases just bring that data together in a way that I can start to see that customer more holistically. But we don't have to go from we haven't integrated our system to everything's integrated to everything. There are actually lots of other smaller steps that exist on that kind of chain that would involve you maybe just pulling certain fields out of the ERP, or creating, more of a one than a two-way directional feed. I think that sometimes people mislabel the word integration and think it means one thing, but integration means different things to different people. I think you can probably safely say that yourself, Gary.
Yeah, look, there's layers of how we can do it. Like the basic starting point is simply just picking up an export of data from one system and just consuming it in another. There's bi-directional. There's stuff we can do where if an account goes on hold, we can display that in the CRM system to say, look, this account has been put on stop for various reasons. But you might want to push an order back in, right? So that's a very different conversation we need to have now, because now we're going to be putting data back into the ERP, which introduces a large number of concerns and stress points, especially for the primary users of the ERP. So you've got single source or masters of, the data masters, so that that there is a primary system in the organization where the data will always be 100% correct and everything feeds from that. So which system is that going to be dictates, do we do an integration one way or another? Like, are we allowed update? Is it a manual task? So there's varying ways, but I think the easiest to get up and running is to just take a feed of data and consume it, and then present. And that could be done nightly, so it doesn't have to be done all the time. Data that's only a few hours old is way better than data that's 30 or 60 days old. So being able to just bring that in, and it's very straightforward to do, because it's usually just a report or it's a CSV dump that we're able to consume and just bring in, and you could switch the stuff on very quickly. I think a lot of it is more down to what are the insights that we're going to provide. Mm-hmm. Like what do the team members really need to understand and know about, or what's the priority today? And then your view of that priority will then evolve and mature as the team get more used to what's being shown. If we show them everything on day one, it could just overwhelm them, and then they won't be able to tell the difference anymore. And so it's just about bringing the team on that journey and ramping up the level of intelligence that's going to be presented to them over time.
That sounds brilliant. We've gone a couple of minutes over, so thank you so much, Gary and John, for sharing your insights in today's session, today's live discussion, and thank you for everybody who's joined. We'll follow up with an email to all attendees who joined, including a link and a recording to today's session. So thanks again, everybody who joined, and great discussion.
Yeah, I think, Ryan, as well, if anybody has questions or wants to do a follow-up, just reach out to any of us on the call, and we can just answer any questions. If you're thinking of dipping your toe into having an AI layer or sales intelligence from ERP data or anything like that, you can definitely reach out to us, and we'll answer any questions you have, regardless of whether it's ourselves that you'll end up wanting to talk to or someone else. There's definitely an opportunity to have a chat if needed.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time, guys. Appreciate you having me on today. See you now. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.